Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the second channel. This video, I don't really know why I'm making it, but a lot of people have requested that I talk about some of the stuff that's been going on in the community recently. We've got some cheating stuff to talk about in the Content Creator Cup. We've got, like, blinking mid-animation discussions, whether B should be the default relic in Smite 2. Just a bunch of random miscellaneous topics that people have asked me to talk about, but probably don't warrant a video, especially not for the main channel. So we're just going to be covering them all in this video on the second channel, just giving my thoughts on them. So yeah, first up, the Content Creator Cup has been going on for a while now. No one's really very interested in it seems, but this drama, I guess, has got us all interested in it. So basically, this guy called Malachi in the Content Creator Cup was accused of cheating by some guy on Twitter. I don't even know who he is, but there's clips and screenshots and stuff. So first up, there's this screenshot which has Cheat Engine opened on his computer. Oh no, I actually lied, dude. I thought it was open on his computer. It's not. He literally just has Cheat Engine on his desktop, and apparently that's enough to confirm that he's cheating in an online multiplayer game. That's not how Cheat Engine works. I have used Cheat Engine in the past for like way back when I was playing like Dragon Quest, not Dragon Quest, Adventure Quest online. You could use Cheat Engine, not on the online version, because obviously the online version is tracking your items on their server side. You can't just change it client side, but you can do stuff with Cheat Engine like for offline games like Adventure Quest Offline, or for like Fallout or Skyrim or whatever. Obviously you can use console commands for that as well, but basically it's a way to manipulate like the values that are in memory addresses for games and stuff like that. So if you want to like have 3,000 of this ammo instead of 2, you change the number 2 to 3,000 using Cheat Engine, and then you get that. It is not the type of program that can give you like aimbot in Smite. That's just not at all how it works, and it's very ignorant to say that Cheat Engine being on his computer is confirmed cheating. That just makes me think that whoever's accusing him has absolutely no knowledge of how cheating works in online multiplayer games. And Cheat Engine wasn't even open on his computer. Like if you look at the taskbar, it's not even open. He's clearly just got it there for like, I don't know, cheating in Fallout 4 or whatever. Maybe you watched the Fallout TV show and he wants to get a million caps in Fallout 4. However, that's not all, of course. Just seeing Cheat Engine on someone's computer isn't really enough to accuse them of cheating. There's also a clip from the Content Creator Cup of this guy Malachi playing Fafnir. Let's give this a watch in a bit of slow motion because it's a pretty crazy clip. Let's just mute it because I hate listening to audio in 0.5 speed. But yeah, here we go. So he like hits the Marty, and then this is kind of where it starts. Like his camera's like flicking around a lot. But to me, this doesn't look like cheating. Like this to me looks like either something's up with this mouse, or he's got a way too high DPI / sensitivity, and it's not working out for him. If he actually plays like this, I don't know how he actually does anything. Apparently, he's a decent player, from what I've heard. But if he's actually like playing with this high of a sensitivity and it's like jerking his camera around like this, I don't know how he even plays the game. But this is not helpful. This is not useful. Like this is not helping him actually hit abilities. If anything, it's making things more difficult by the fact that his camera's just flipping around all the time, and it's not really tracking people at all. Like occasionally it almost looks like, yeah, it's kind of snapping to people, but that's probably just him trying to track people. And I think the only reason people are like sus of this is because it's like snapping around so much, but I think that's just like a DPI issue, honestly. Like you can see it's like snapping around, and sometimes it snaps onto people, but a lot of the time it doesn't. It just snaps onto like fucking nothing. So no, I absolutely don't think this is cheating. Do we have any more clips? There's another screenshot here. I think that's the Cheat Engine one. And there's another clip here. Oh, it's the same clip. Yeah, he's not cheating, dude. I would be pretty certain that he's not cheating. I've seen people cheat in this game. Cheat Engine, disregard all of these like screenshots saying the Cheat Engine. You cannot use Cheat Engine to cheat in Smite. That's just not how it works. There are cheats that exist for Smite, but you cannot use Cheat Engine to do that. That's just going to manipulate values. Like, the absolute most, you could give yourself 1,000,000 gold, but you can't do that in an online game. It's all tracked server side. And yeah, these clips and stuff, they're not very sus to me. It just looks like he has way too high of sensitivity, or his mouse is bugging out or something. It's not useful. That's what you got to think about cheating. Like, is it actually useful? Is it helping him win more? Absolutely not. This is helping him win less, if anything. The fact that it's like snapping around so much. I don't know how you hit abilities when your camera's doing that. But yeah, that's the cheating drama. Let's move on. We've got some stuff on Blink. We'll go to Heroin's channel for this and give a little reaction to his thoughts on it. So basically, the long and short of it is that in the Smite 2 alpha test that we had a few weeks ago at this point, Combat Blink, it's Combat Blink in Smite 2, you can use it in combat. It was allowed to be used unintentionally, I believe, mid-ability animation. So like in Shackle, you could charge Shackle up, blink at the last second and it's about to hit, and then you blink on someone and they just get hit by it with no time to react, I guess. It's not really like you have no time to react, because it's kind of obvious if a Chak is ulting absolutely nothing in front of you and he has Blink in his build, obviously he's going to do that, so you do have time to react while it's channeling. You know, he's only moving, he's not speeding up the channel of the ability or anything, so you do have time to react. But yeah, it could be used mid-animation, which could cause some problems. Let's listen to Heroin's thoughts on this.
Yo, everybody. I'm just going to freeform this. I'm not going to edit the video or anything like that, but this video is just going to be a quick kind of discussion from my POV and things that I've been thinking about as far as combat blink is concerned, or I guess just blink, whatever you want to call it, in Smite 2. TLDR, in Smite 2, blink can be used mid-animation, and it can be used in CC Immune ultimates so far. The devs, I believe, have made it clear that it is not an intended change, and I would expect them to revert it, but there's a lot of pushback on social media, and I'm sure other channels, for people saying maybe it should stay and that it's interesting and cool. And I want to start off by saying that I do think that more game interactions and mechanics that kind of make things more interesting is generally good from my POV. Now, a lot of pros are going to like this because things that may be unfair, although we do complain a lot, things that may be unfair, we kind of like can adjust to those things. You know, we've been at...
Yeah, this is obviously gonna be a thing where like higher level players are gonna like it a lot more, because lower level players, one, they can't really do it as efficiently as like a high level player will be able to, and two, they can't like deal with it as efficiently as a high level player will be able to. Like basically, it's another thing to think about. It's another thing that raises the skill ceiling of the game, which personally, I'm more on the side of like Heroin with this one. I can understand the argument that like with certain cases you may have to ban it. Like you may have to make it so that as a general rule it can be used mid-animation, but with some abilities it can. Can't really think of any majorly, like, uber broken ones off the top of my head. I guess with Fenrir it could be good, or like Ares, you know, if you channel people and then blink, but like, would it be overall that broken? I mean, maybe. I think you would have to limit it in certain circumstances, but I do kind of like the idea of being able to blink mid-animation. It's one of those things where it's like, sort of emergent game design in a way. Like, this wasn't an intended change, but honestly, I think it could be a good thing for the game. It would raise the skill ceiling, it'd make for some ridiculously high plays that get shared all over Twitter and stuff like that. And you know, sometimes that's how the best features come out of games. You know, everyone knows the famous example of fighting game combos. You know, fighting game combos were never intended to initially be a thing. You were supposed to just be able to throw out punches and hit people, but then certain moves had enough hit stun to be confirmed into other moves, and then that's how combos were born in fighting games, and that's like, you know, now a major reason that people play fighting games, especially myself. I love Tekken for the fact that I can absolutely do ridiculous combos and express my creativity with those combos. And that's emergent game design. You know, that was never really intended, and this blink thing could be similar.
The like forefront of like crazy meta changes in the past, and we just learn how to deal with this stuff. It's very rare that like something is so crazy that we literally can't deal with it or come up with any counterplay. You know, for example,
it's the pro's job to come up with counterplay and deal with all this stuff.
Smite 2, Ymir can like charge his ult and blink on somebody mid ult charge and like kind of like nuke you, but
yeah, see, that's funny because like it would lead to some great clips and it's still reactable. You know, it's not like there's something in the game that's allowing Ymir to full charge his ult within 0.1 seconds. Like, he's still going to be sat there charging an ult on absolutely nothing. And I guess if he, like, gets on you and then charges his ult and then you jump away, he could blink to follow you with it. But, like, that's just how Smite works in general. Like, if you get on someone and you haven't used their movement ability and they use theirs, you use your movement ability to follow them and you punish them. Like, that's kind of just how Smite works. It's not that different if, like, Ymir's charging his ult on you and then blinks after you once you've, it'd probably look weird, like, animation-wise, but I don't think it would be that bad.
Like, realistically, like, you can react to that if you know he can do it. It's just new, so that's what's surprising about it. Like, Chalk can charge his ult up and then blink in the middle of his ult, but if you know he can do that, like, now we don't expect that in Smite 1. Like, we're not used to it. But if you know that it can happen, you can counterplay it. And that's what a lot of pros are going to say is like...
That's what I would say as well. I think a lot of this is, it's almost true in Smite 2 in terms of, like, the item system as well. Like, it's new, people aren't familiar with it, and I feel like people say it's bad just because they're not familiar with it, and, like, it's overwhelming them a little bit at the moment. But, like, with the item system, for example, it's not going to take that much time to get used to. Like, think about how quickly you learned Smite 1. The changes to Smite 2, they're not going to be as daunting as learning an entirely new MOBA. But you will get used to it, and overall, I think it's a much better system, and this could be similar. As I said, I'm not entirely sure it should stay completely as is. I think some abilities may need to be banned from it. You know, maybe ones that like root you or ones that are like a big channel or something like that. But I think being able to blink, you know, like mid-Pele too or whatever, like could be really cool.
Don't say you can't counterplay it. And that's why I think what gets a lot of pros like going with this conversation is saying you can't deal with it is kind of ridiculous so far. What I want to do is add some kind of like more context to the nuance of this. One is I think that there's a lot of problem characters, and now the first argument people are going to say is just disable blink on those characters. And I
No, don't disable blink entirely. Disable it being used mid-animation on certain abilities where it would be too broken.
just want to say this to you people. Do you think about what you're saying when you say stuff like that? When you say just disable on those characters, for you that sounds really easy because you just turn it off, click a button and turn it off. But it obviously doesn't just work that way. A lot of times they're not going to know 100% if it should or shouldn't be turned off, and it's going to have to be tested if it's okay or not, and then they're going to have to get feedback, and then they're going to have to implement it, or they're going to have to implement it in a certain way so that it works on that character. I mean,
Yeah, this is, like, it is generally bad game design as well to approach things this way. Like, you generally want to have uniform rules to make the game familiar and understandable. Like, if you see something work one way on some character, you would expect it to work in a similar way on a different character. You know, there might be minor differences or whatever, but just saying, oh, this character literally can't buy blink would probably be, like, bad game design, in my opinion.
you got characters like Daji, that's obviously complicated. Can you?
It's sort of like a band-aid fix, I guess. Like, they've done this before in the past where, like, they just say, oh, this can't be done. This was too broken, we can't figure out how to balance it properly, so literally just, this can't be done. Disabled, gone. Band-aid solution. And I really think hybrids tend to do that quite a lot, and it's not great game design, in my opinion.
You blink with the pillar up, people are probably going to say disable it, but maybe it's okay. Maybe if it's a long cooldown, you can just do that every so often, but then maybe you have to nerf Daji ult to the ground or make it like weaker. You can only chain 1 or 2 people or something to compensate for being able to do that. And obviously it just makes things really complicated, and then maybe your ult isn't very useful without blink. They have to bounce around that, like specific interaction. You know, another one like Maui and the sky characters, can Freya blink while she's like up in the sky? Can Thor blink like as he's like landing before he actually like fully lands, or like while he's channeling his ult to like get out of danger?
Yeah, now that I think about it more, this might be a thing where you need to whitelist it rather than blacklist it. Like, maybe it's not a default thing, but for certain abilities that it's fair on and it's fun for, you could actually just, like, whitelist them and allow them to be used blink bin animation, like Pele's 2 or whatever. Because, yeah, just blanket allowing it for everyone, you would have so many things blacklisted out of that, like a lot of ultimates, that, like, at that point, it's not really a game rule. So you'd probably be better off just whitelisting certain things and allowing them. Like, probably most basic abilities would be fine with this. Like, you could probably do it reasonably with just say allow it on basic abilities, don't allow it on ults, and then maybe some basic abilities aren't allowed either, and maybe even you could allow some ults to do it as well, just like a whitelisting system.
I don't know. Some of these might not be issues. Like some of them might be like perfectly potentially balanced, and honestly a lot of people are also going to say that blink, you're not just going to, blink is an item now, right? That's another thing I forgot to mention. Blink is an item, not a relic, so you have to dedicate an entire item slot to it. And I think that is a good point, but I don't think we should be that concerned about the specific stats that are on the item right now. I think it is important for the future to be evaluating that effect of being able to blink mid-animation in CC Immune Ultimate, potentially, as a whole in our worst-case scenarios, because we're gamers in 2024. We're going to find the absolute worst, well, best, depending on how you look at it, way to abuse those interactions, and people are gonna.
Yeah, exactly. That's something you always got to think about as a designer. Like, what is the potential worst way this could go? You know, what's the Murphy's Law of this situation? Because people will find it. There's a lot of people that play this game. There's thousands of people that play this game. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably, that play this game. They will find a way to completely break it, especially the pros.
Get really, really, really good at it really fast. And it will become problematic far faster than you would imagine. People will be blinking right before their animation goes off, no problem, in a week's time. People who play the game a lot and who are pretty good with the game. Smite is a big field game, so people are naturally going to be good at making those changes. So I don't want. A lot of the discussion I've seen a lot of people say you're not going to just build blink to do that. But the thing is, in a 6-item build, if there's a really strong interaction with blink on your particular character, you're probably going to find a way to fit it. Because
yeah, blink is so incredibly powerful. You absolutely, I think, you You know, maybe not on like mid laners and ADCs because they might like really need their item slots to get their damage out, but like on junglers, on solo laners, on supports, you're absolutely going to buy Blink. Even if it had almost no stats, you might still buy Blink. It's just such a powerful effect.
You can just win the game off.
And even more powerful, of course, if you can blink mid animation.
Like some crazy interaction like that. Like Smite typically works that way. Who knows with Smite 2 necessarily, but it's just something that I want everyone to think about. I don't think the stats on the item should matter. Basically, TLDR for that point. So I just want you to consider these problem characters. It's not as simple as just don't make it work on that character. Don't make it work for that ability. That's really confusing, not only for the designers, for new players, even for us veterans while we're integrating all the characters back into the game that everyone's probably going to be playing once it's actually like in motion.
Yeah, like as I mentioned, it's generally a bad design principle to do things like that, especially when it's not explained to the player whatsoever. Like, Smite's already absolutely ass garbage at explaining how a lot of the game's mechanics work and how things work within the game. There's like almost no resources there, and especially with Smite 2 at the moment, obviously there's no resources there. They're not focusing on that at the moment, but even in Smite 1, there's like almost no resources that are actually good to teach you the mechanics of the game, you know, what these stat caps are, what abilities can be blinked mid-animation and all this stuff. Like, no one really teaches you that. And yes, you can go to external resources. Like, if this change was made, you'd probably find a video on my channel saying, like, you know, which characters are good with it, which characters can use blink mid animation and all this stuff. But having to go to external resources, I reckon at least half the Smite player base have never watched like a Smite video on YouTube. Like, you guys all watch me, I watch Smite YouTubers as well. Like, people do watch outside content, but I think a lot of the casual player base, a large chunk of it, really don't. And like, I guess you could make the argument that like those players are so casual that like this kind of a change won't matter. Like they'll be playing against other people that don't know about it and aren't optimizing it, and it won't really matter. But it does make the game a lot more confusing. Like you know, if you blink mid animation on something and then you're like, oh, that's really cool, I can do that, and then you pick another character and it doesn't work on that character with no explanation of why, it's going to be pretty confusing.
That kind of brings me into my next point, is that a lot, and this is what I've seen a lot of people say, is other games like League, now I don't necessarily play League, but I know other games that even aren't League have situations or like interactions like this where you can use a blink or a flash mid animation. And it's not necessarily a bad point, but Smite has never been that way. And that's not to say we can't change, but what for sure will have to happen is we will have to work backwards with every character that comes to make sure that they can operate appropriately with that interaction.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like this with Smite 2 that like you could make so many cool changes. We'll be moving on to bees in a second, I promise you, and that's a similar case, but like you would have to retroactively look at like every single god you added and probably tweak them in certain ways if you made such sweeping changes like this. And like, would the design effort be worth there? You know, or would they want to focus on like adding new things to Smite 2, bringing all the gods over? Like, it's going to be a lot of development time making sure all this stuff works. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. Leave your guys' thoughts down below. I'm a little bit torn on this. I do like the idea, but also like it couldn't just be implemented as is, like as it was in the alpha, where everyone can blink in the middle of every animation. That would just be absolute carnage. But I think maybe some way of implementing this on specific abilities that are like whitelisted to allow it could be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly kind of undecided on this, so let me know your thoughts down below. But let's move on to the Final K beads video. So here we are. So context for this one, basically Final K believes that beads is inherently unhealthy for Smite 2 and that it should be completely removed and either replaced with like Blink as a starting relic or whatever.
Alright, should we read this Reddit post? See what people's opinions are? Let's do it. Let's do it for fun.
Respect on the music choice, by the way. If I
watch the news. Apparently there's a post. Here it is. Really hoping Harris has already seen this, but just in case, Final K's Twitter post on why default Beads Relic is not healthy for Smite 2. Okay, this is what I said. So we were talking about, these are my pros and cons. Everybody, I think you probably have seen that. And then Bianca said, can you elaborate on why you think the free beads is lame? Seems very split. This is what I said. I think Beads is inherently anti-playmaking, so it's almost exclusively used defensively, has a low skill ceiling compared to something like Blink, and the reason I want this is because I think Blink should be the default relic, not Beads. That's just my personal opinion. And every argument for it, I don't like in a new game like Smite 2. Too much CC in the game, you're making a new game, lower the CC in the game. Every character doesn't need 3 hard CCs. This is already like a common complaint that should probably be changed to begin with, because people...
Yeah, everyone's been complaining about that for the longest time, dude. Like, there's far too much CC in Smite, and it makes beads kind of essential. Like, if you removed beads at the moment from Smite 1, absolute carnage would ensue instantly. The meta would just be whoever has the most ridiculous, unreactable hard CCs. You know, it's part of the reason why knockups have been historically so broken, and that they had to specifically be nerfed to apply more DR and all this kind of stuff, and they're still arguably the best CC in the game. Like, just the fact that you have to pre-beads them, and if they're kind of hard to react to, and you can't pre-beads them, you are absolutely screwed. And that would be how every single hard CC in the game was. You know, imagine Nox, imagine Ares, imagine all these other characters that, like, they just don't have, like, a really reactable portion of their CC. They could just blink on you, or just, like, throw it from a range, and you can't really react to it. You get CC'd, you will fucking instantly die, because the lethality in Smite is honestly too high, in my opinion. But yeah, it would be a lot of work to completely remove beads from the game. You would need to take a look, as I was mentioning in the heroine video, it would be a similar thing with like the blink interaction with beads. You would have to retroactively look at every single character that you bring over from Smite 1, and you would have to drastically change all of their CCs. You know, either you give them more wind-up so they're more reactable so you can blink or dash away from them, or you would have to nerf their durations or the amount of CCs that they have. Which I'm not necessarily opposed to. It would be a lot of work, but I think, yeah, I do somewhat agree that, like, if that amount of work could be put in and done right for Smite 2, I think it probably would improve the game. You know, plenty of other MOBAs are like this. You know, the cleanse exists in League of Legends, but almost no one takes it because the amount of CC in that game is just drastically lower. And you can also get one shot even when you're not CC. Whereas in Smite, generally, if you're getting one shot, you've either been, like, skill shot diffed by, like, a Ralt or a Thothel, or you're getting CC'd and instantly dying. And so, yeah, removing beads, you would need to make massive amounts of retroactive changes as they bring gods over. But I think, yeah, Blink default Relic probably would be better. Let's continue with final thoughts here, though.
I say this all the time. And it is funny because people act like it should just be a given. Everyone's like, oh, what about Fenrir? Oh, what about Ares? Oh, what about... It's like, well, you're making a new game. Why are you just assuming it's going to be the exact same? People say beads is new friendly, but I don't think that's also true because most dudes don't even recognize the seats that are being hit by or know when to use it. Combat Blink, for example, is much more intuitive.
Yeah, you already see this. Whenever you see a noob and they're buying Aegis first Relic and completely ignoring beads, sometimes for their entire thing, you know, they might go like Aegis and Blink or whatever. I just see that and I'm like, okay, yeah, dude, beads is clearly not noob friendly because the noobs don't buy it. They clearly don't see the value in it. They see damage immunity and they're like, oh, that must be so much better than CC immunity when it's not because the vast majority of the time that you die to damage, it's probably because you got CC'd. If you're not getting CC'd, you can probably juke stuff. Like, yeah, you might get randomly, like, Thoth ulted and maybe Aegis could have saved you. Aegis can save you, absolutely. It's still a valuable relic. There's a reason squishies go beads and Aegis. Aegis is still very valuable. But the thing is, like, 80% of the time you die is because you got CC'd and you beads probably would have saved you anyway. And, like, 20% of the time Aegis would have saved you and beads wouldn't.
And then I also just think it's fresh for loading for new players. Imagine you finally hit that max range CC ability or get a sick 4-man Ares ult as a new player and they just beads and walk away. It's got to be very frustrating. So, like I said, it's just as disheartening for them.
Yeah, again, like, you would have to make major changes here, because if you just remove beads, you would get the opposite problem. You know, you wouldn't get people blinking in and hitting a 4-man Ares ult and being like, oh, that was absolutely sick, but then they beads it. You would get the opposite problem of, oh, this guy's just blinking on me and pulling me in, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I'm just dying on cooldown to this guy. I wish I had a way to stop this happening to me. So you would absolutely have to make major changes to a lot of gods that have either unreactable or, like, big hard CCs.
Then I said I preferred Blink as a default, but that's just me. Maybe there shouldn't be a default. I think there's some good arguments against Blink as well, but at least the game would be moving fun with it. I also mentioned that, like, you could just change characters' kits, you know? Like, you could give Ares ult a small wind-up. Or a change that I think would be cool for Ares is make it so that he only pulls people with people that he already has chained with his one. And what you could do is, for each person you pull with your ult that are chained by your one, it lowers the cooldown of your chains by 2 seconds. So if you hit 3 people with your ult, that's 6 seconds off your chains. You can use your chains again. That would be a way to...
Yeah, they could also just make it where it's a skill shot, you know, make it so Ares kind of like rises up into the sky and like fires out 3 chains or something like that as a line skill shot, and when you hit them, it pulls them in or something. Like, it would be significant changes to the character, but yeah, if you were going to remove beads entirely from the game, this would be the play. For me, what I've said about this that I generally still agree with is that I think it would just be better to have a few options for your relics. You know, keep beads in the game, but also add Aegis, add Blink, add TP, and then add Shell or Sprint or Horrific Emblem or something, one kind of support relic, and just have like 5 or so that there's at least a trade-off for going beads. People will still go beads on squishies, most likely, and I guess that's kind of the problem with it. You know, no one's ever going to go Aegis, like almost never. You would go Aegis less than 1% of the time if you had a choice between beads and Aegis, if you're good at the game anyway. I've mentioned before, like, noobs will probably buy Aegis, but generally, if you have the option of beads or Aegis, you should go beads 99.9% of the time. But it would at least solve the tank beads problem that there was in the alpha. You know, tanks getting beads for free, because tanks will be foregoing a Blink, or they will be foregoing a Horrific Emblem, or a Shell, or a TP for soul earners, or whatever.
Reward skill shotting on Ares and make it so if beads isn't in the game, it would be a lot more balanced and more rewarding for people. So So yeah, that's basically what I said. You can read that if you guys want. Chatman J says, I agree with there being far too much CC. I also think Smite has too much mobility in base kits, but I think the problem is that a lot of CC in Smite also does a shit ton of damage. I feel like the trade-off of CC skills should be they deal less damage. You're already stunning, rooting, polymorphing the enemy, which guarantees damage, so why would the CC also do the same as a skill without any CC?
Yep, this is a general game-wide problem for Smite in terms of, like, trade-offs don't really exist. You just kind of get everything you want all the time, and there's not really any, like, opportunity cost or decisions you have to make on, like, do I want this? Do I want this? And it was the same with builds. I think it's going to be a little bit better in Smite 2 because the stats on the items are shifted down substantially, and, like, active effects can be kind of crazy, so, like, you might want to go, like, a bunch of active items, but they're probably going to have weaker stats and stuff. I think it's going to be better in Smite 2 overall in terms of, like, the build situation, but in Smite 1 for so many years, it's just been like there's no real trade-off, and this is a good point as well. Like you look at CC abilities or like abilities with extra effects, they really don't do much less damage than just like a standard skill shot.
And that's also a really good point. That is a really good point. I mean, like most just like their damage isn't even that different, you know? Or if it has like really utility in it, like Chalk 2, for example, has so much utility in it, and it does more damage than his one.
Yeah, that's stupid.
You know, Hera 2 slams you, and it's a non-DR.
Dude, don't even get me started on Hera 2. I've been complaining about Hera for years at this point. That god is fucking ridiculous. I hate her. But yeah, Hera 2, massive range, pretty easy to hit because you can keep moving it as you go, and it does like the same damage as Ra 1, but also has a 2-second polymorph on it that's undeniable. Like, it's absolutely silly.
Horrible 2-second polymorph. I think it's 2 seconds, right? So, it is a good point. I agree, but unfortunately they seem to be continuing this trend, like how Anubis stun now deals damage for some reason. Yeah, and then Thor stun used to not do damage back in the day, but now it does damage. I mean, it does very little damage, but it procs items and stuff, so... At least in Smite 1. So yeah, that's a good point by Chatman J. Then Zari Ludus says, I noticed how I didn't see that many agreeing with his opinion until Fino said it. I like and respect the guy, but I definitely noticed the sudden change when he said it. As much as this sub likes to accuse ADC mains of just blindly repeating any opinion Zatman has, y'all sure do the exact thing with Fino's opinions. Okay, I don't know if, I mean, I don't read the Reddit that often, but maybe it's because, now hear me out, Zari Lotus. Maybe people changed their mind because I gave it a distinct reasoning why. And maybe, hear me out to this is gonna sound super conceited, but maybe it's just because I'm right.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if someone gives convincing evidence and someone changes their mind, that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. It's obviously there will just be sheep that, like, hear fine, okay, or hear me say something, and they're just like, oh, yeah, no, I completely agree with that now. But I think be generous to people. You know, I think a lot of the time people do see new information and change their opinions on it. You know, maybe they hadn't thought about it in a certain way that Fine has now given an opinion for that has, like, completely changed their mind on it. Or maybe they'd never really thought about it at all, and now people are just coming out and saying these things now because they've seen someone else talk about it. Like, that happens to me a lot. I'll see something that's like interesting to me and like will change my perspective, and I'd never really thought about it at all before, and then I'll you know, say it on videos on my channel as well. Like, this is just people changing their opinions over time as new information comes to light and new perspectives are shared.
Can't speak for everyone, but I've had the opinion I post for years. I love Smite, but the abundant CC mode is bad. Yeah, and I'm also just saying, I'm saying stuff that people already have said non-stop for years.
Yeah, this is
like
not a
the
new
whole CC thing. Like, people have complained about how much CC is in Smite since the dawn of time. So why not?
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Beads has been in the game for so long, Beads has been essential for so long that, like, the amount of CC in the game is fine when Beads exist. Honestly, even then, it's, like, kind of annoying because, like, if your beads are down, you feel like you just instantly die because of, one, the amount of lethality that's in the game. I think the time to kill is way too low generally, but also, like, if you get CC'd once when your beads are down, you just kind of die, and there's like 80% of the roster has a CC that's long enough that it will kill you if it hits you. So, like, that's kind of the problem. And yes, it will be a lot of work to rework a lot of these characters and, like, reduce the amount of CC in the game across the board and change things, add wind-ups to things, reduce the duration of stuff. Like, it would be a lot of work. But I think the work might pay off, like, especially if you could even maybe keep these in the game, but just have it on a really long cooldown. You know, have it like League's Flash level of cooldown. Like, I think is it 5 minutes in League? I think it's 5 minutes. Like, put beads on like a 5-minute cooldown, but massively nerf all the CC in the game, so you're not getting insta-kill if you don't have beads, like, for every time you get hit by a CC. And, you know, at that point, maybe Beads isn't worth taking, and you could do my suggestion where you have, like, Beads, Blink, Aegis, Teleport, and then Shell or Sprint or Horrific. You could have, like, those options there, and if Beads is on a 5-minute cooldown and Blink is on a 5-minute cooldown, you know, you might actually get people using some of these other options. You know, maybe Aegis could have a slightly lower cooldown than Beads, because it definitely is less useful. And maybe there would actually be options there and people would just instantly pick beads on every squishy. They probably still would, but yeah, if you nerf down the amount of CC in the game substantially, Aegis becomes more valuable because you're not just like getting hit by a CC ability and dying anyway. You know, if you're getting CC'd less, you've got more opportunities to use Aegis on damaging abilities. So, like, it might actually be a choice to make there. You would also have to remove CC immunity from a lot of abilities, I feel. If you're going to remove the amount of, like, increase the cooldown of beads and reduce the amount of CC in the game, you'll probably want to take CC immunity off of some of the ults in the game. Because at the moment, like, 80% of the ults have CC immunity, and so you would just end up in a situation where, like, a lot of the characters that don't have CC immunity on their ult would be a problem. Yeah, the game would have to be reworked substantially for this kind of a change to be a thing. And personally, I don't think just making Blink default... I wouldn't hate it. I think Blink is inherently fun for the game. And as Fine says, I think in this video, like, it's inherently more of a playmaking thing than Beads is. Beads is anti-playmaking. So it makes a play and people Beads and it completely shuts down the play. Whereas with Blink, it's a playmaking ability. It's used aggressively for the most part. Obviously, now there's Combat Blink in Smite 2, you can use it defensively. But even then, you can still make a play by using it defensively. You know, blink out of someone's ability, 180, kill them, and stuff like that. And so yeah, I absolutely wouldn't be opposed to Blink being the default relic, assuming they took sweeping changes across the game to make sure that CC doesn't become a problem, because at the moment, if you remove beads, it would just be you get CC once and you die immediately. Personally, though, I would like to see a small selection of relics available, like beads, blink, teleport, Aegis, and then like shell or the horrific for supports. But anyway, I feel like I've talked about this stuff enough. I'm not going to watch the entire video. It's a 24-minute video of a clip from FineOk's stream, and I'll also be giving my thoughts. I don't want this video to go, like, to an hour. I've already been recording for 40 minutes at this point, so we'll leave it there. That's just my thoughts on some of the topics that have been floating around the Smite community at the moment. Beads default relic, how much he sees in the game, blinking mid-animations, the cheating drama, all that kind of stuff. I just thought I'd post this to the second channel. I didn't really think it warranted a video on the main channel. These are just kind of, like, smaller miscellaneous topics, so I thought I'd post it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Definitely leave your thoughts down below. This is very much something I want to hear the community's thoughts on. And I will catch you guys at another one on Into Games later. Peace.